Yeah. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to one more segment of Velocity Virtual Book Squad. I am your host, Pastor Dawnell McCoy, and we come to you every Wednesday at 12 noon, introducing you to a different Christian author who is sharing the publications and works that God has given them to empower and just encourage the world. And we have somebody that's a little different today. So I'm really excited about exploring the books that she has written. But I do want to give you a little information. Velocity Virtual Book Squad is being sponsored by eChurch International. eChurch is the place where people meet God and Christians are equipped. You can find us every Wednesday, of course, with Velocity Virtual Book Squad at 12 noon or on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock p.m. for our segments that we call Your Family and Finances with my guest co-host, Dr. Norman E. Hartman. And tonight we're going to be talking about the dangers of settling for the rent man. This is a relationship series that you don't want to miss. I'm telling you, it is everything that you think it's going to be, because we're going to really look at, from both the perspective of men and women, how we settle when we're getting a little bit of what we want, but we know that's not our destiny. And I think it's just going to be great, because we're also going to explore the things to look for, when the difference between the rent man and the person that's there for life. Then also you can join me every morning at 6:30 a.m. for Arise with Pastor Dawnell McCoy. And then you can catch me on the weekends on Saturdays at 6:45 p.m. and Sunday mornings at 9:45 a.m. for our worship experience as we come together and refresh our faith with the Word of God. And if you would like to connect with eChurch or find out more information about who we are, you can email us at echurchint@gmail.com. And because we are an electronically based church, what we do in the community is a lot of community outreach. Like this weekend, we're having another food giveaway for the month of April for our senior citizens 55 and up. So if you would like to donate to eChurch and any of the work that we're doing in the community, then you can cash app us at $eChurchINT. And we promise you, your donations are going to go back in our community. It's not going to go in my pockets. I got a good job. I don't need it, y'all. So anyways, let's go ahead and introduce our author today, because actually we're a few moments late with the broadcast, because she and I were just talking and we lost track of time, because this young lady is such a beautiful soul. I met her long before now, when I had my hair salon and was in the salon business, and she was one of my hair customers. And even just talking to her then, I could do her hair. Sometimes I would even go over to her house and I would do her hair, and we would just talk. And she is such a wealth of knowledge and has such a beautiful heart. She's an educator. She's an author. She's a mother. She's an entrepreneur. She is the embodiment of what a successful Black woman is. And I want to introduce to some and present to others Miss Dawnell Jacob. Thank you so much, Dawnell, for joining us on Velocity Virtual Book Squad.
Hello. I just appreciate you having me here today. I'm really excited to talk about my books, and that introduction was everything.
Yes, ma'am. You are everything. I have always admired just, women who's pushing, and we're going to get into it a little bit later on. But, as we would talk on a personal level years ago, I know that there were some, different challenges and things that you faced, like all of us other women, but it did not stop you from writing your books. And I believe that, in a way it was therapy to you. And of course, I believe that God is using it to be therapy to other people as well. But what is interesting, you all, about Dawnell is, how many books have you written now?
So far, I have 5. I'm working on number 6 and 7, as well as a screenplay as we speak.
Oh,
Yes.
that's incredible. That's amazing. And with the books that she's written, though, 4 of the 5 are fiction books. Now, this is your first book, The
Yes.
Monsters Within, book 1, The Heart of Darkness. And I thought it was amazing that you are a fiction writer, because sometimes as Christian women, I think our hearts and our minds get so caught up on reading about reality. But there is a place that I believe is also a healing place and an exploratory place when we look at the fiction life, because, like with screenplays and movies, that's what it is.
Mhm.
It's fiction life, and we love it and we get caught up in it. So, what inspires you to write this first book?
So I actually started that book as a short story when I was in college.
Okay.
I was in a very dark place. That book is very dark because I was in a dark place. I was dealing with the loss of my mother, abandonment issues.
Mm,
I was dealing with the loss of my siblings. And so writing has always been a comfort for me. It's cathartic. I put a lot of my emotions into it. And so I began writing the short story in college.
Okay.
Um, I was actually suffering from PTSD at the time. I didn't realize it until I learned
Mm,
more about it. And I put some of those emotions into the novel. And then once I decided to start publishing, I let friends read it. They said, "Oh my goodness, this is really good. You should do something with it." So
mm-hmm.
once I started publishing, I went through my list of stories, I rediscovered the story, and I said, let's take this short story and make it into a novel. And so
Mm,
the novel that you're holding now is the first set in the trilogy, and currently I'm
okay.
working on the sequel.
Oh, wow. Well, and that's great. And, as we talk about, because one of the things we do want to do too on the show is give the audience a look at the author and just who the author is as a person. And, what were some of the challenges that was happening? I know you say you were dealing with the loss of your mother, and my condolences
Mhm.
with that, and even with your siblings, but you also ended up having a ready-made family because you ended up raising your three brothers. And what ages were they then, and what ages are they now?
Well, initially, when I went through the turmoil, my brothers were 3, 5, and 7. I
Okay.
promised my oldest youngest brother, who was 7 years old at the time, that I would get him. I had to give them up to foster care because my mother was very ill mentally, and there was a little drug abuse going on as well. Um, and so once I gave my brother up, I was very torn apart by that. It pretty much drove me throughout my college years. I graduated college in 3 years. Got an apartment, became a teacher,
Hmm.
furnished my apartment with all this furniture from Goodwill,
Oh, wow.
and approached DFAS. Now DFAS had already known that I was interested in my brothers for years.
Okay.
That time was the perfect time because they had already lived at that time with an aunt who at that time had been abusive,
Hmm.
and they were removed from her custody. And so when I approached them, we started the process, and then I got all of my brothers. 7 years had passed by that time. So by the time I got them, they were 12, 11, and 8.
Okay.
And so it was challenging going from being by myself at 24 to raising three young boys. But I
Hmm.
did it. I did the best I could. Um, they we all went through our challenges, but I will say that no matter what has happened or occurred, I definitely don't regret it. I changed the direction of their lives, and
Hmm.
they definitely impacted me because they motivated me to become a better person. I don't think I'd be a teacher or an author here today if it wasn't for the fact that I struggled with my brothers and trying to get custody of them. They have been one of the motivating the most motivating uh, people in my life.
Wow, and that's an incredible story. And also, you were sharing with me now the successes that they have because they're all three adults, or two of them adults on their own now, and
All
are doing
three.
all three of them. Okay.
30, 27, and 25. They're all, oh no, I'm sorry, 20. He's about to be 28. They're all two
Okay.
years apart. But my oldest brother right now, he bought a house. He's living with his wife. He's a stepdad. They told me when he wouldn't live past 21. So,
Mm,
he is definitely a success story all on his own. My middle brother, people were saying because of some of his behavioral challenges when he was younger, that
hmm.
he was going to end up in jail or this. He's in the military. He's graduating from Columbus
Wow.
State University, and he's going to be a commissioned officer. So he is a success story on his own. And then my youngest brother, who was always the good child, he was the angel. He graduated college with a 3.8 GPA,
Wow.
no college debt. He has a bachelor's degree right now, and he's looking to go into his master's. He's preparing to take the GRE so that he can move on and become a psychologist. So everybody is a success story, despite the fact, if you look at our past, we would be considered statistics. And so, and that's kind of what I do with my books. In my novels, I take these women who are going through all of these hard challenges,
Hmm.
who look like they're failures, like everything's going to go wrong for them. And in the end, they overcome those challenges and become
Mm,
successful. And that's pretty much the theme in all of my books. You know, they grapple with loss, they grapple with sadness and grief, they grapple with uh, very, very difficult challenges, but each of my characters overcome them all, and they become a success in the end. Now, in Monsters Within, it has a sad ending because it's a darker story, but
okay.
it gets better.
Okay. And I was writing notes here when you were talking because, I would think just like you said, you and your brother should have been statistics,
Mhm.
but you were not. So where was your mindset? What were you thinking? How did you push through all of this and say, "No, life, you're not going to beat me down. I'm going to overcome and be successful"? What was going through your mind?
Well, I put a lot of that in my nonfiction book, Your Story Matters. The
Okay.
steps that I took in order to become successful and to push myself. One of the things I did was I surrounded myself with positive people. I had a pastor who was in my life who helped me. I had friends at the time who were in my life who helped me, and they were positive forces. So I really took the time to examine my relationships and make sure that I had positive relationships. I spoke positively over myself. Speaking is important. You know,
Yes.
daily affirmations, uh, doing
Hmm.
what you need to do to make sure that you maintain a positive mind frame and a positive outlook. I know when in my younger years, I was very, very negative, and it took a minute to break that. And it really took college because I didn't realize how negative I was until my friends pointed it out. And
Mm-hmm.
so I purposely began to speak positivity on my life and on
Mm-hmm.
myself, and the direction of my life definitely changed. Um, also being yearning for success, constantly having that desire to be successful. You know, I set a goal and I desired to meet that goal. I
Mm-hmm.
spoke, I changed my mouth, I changed my relationships in order to meet that goal. I opened myself to opportunities around that goal and I moved toward it. Those are the things that you have to do if you want to be successful. You have to desire it. You have to have
Mm-hmm.
that desire. And then you have to change your mindset. You have to change your thought process. You have to change your relationships to meet that goal. And then lastly, this is something that a lot of people don't do, and that is
Mm-hmm.
be thankful. You got to be thankful.
Wow.
You got to be
Yes.
grateful. That everyone that contributed to my life along the way, I have gone back and thanked each and every single one of them. Every
Mm.
single one. You know, that's one of the things that as a school teacher, I don't see enough of. You know,
Mm-hmm.
students, a lot of times, a lot of these young people are not grateful, you know, and they miss out on their blessings because they're not
Mm.
grateful for the things they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I have taken it upon my life to always be grateful for each every opportunity that comes through my way, for each person that contributes to me. And because of that attitude, people are willing to reach out and do more.
And it sounds like, of course, I know this, but it sounds like that you are a great teacher. You're a high school teacher, correct?
Yes, I'm still teaching high
So
school too.
God bless you. Prayers for you in every way that we can pray because you need that strength from not just the community, but the parents, from the students. And I want to ask you, how does you being an author and a teacher work hand in hand? Do they work hand in hand? Is it conflictual with one another? Do you have to set aside time over here and say, when I'm an author and wearing this hat and I'm a teacher and wearing this hat, or do the two kind of blend together?
I would love for the two to blend together. As of
Hmm.
right now, they do not blend.
Okay.
My students, I do not promote my novels or my books to my students
Okay.
until they graduate. And then if they graduate and they want to read it, go
Hmm.
for it. The
Gotcha.
students that do know I write, they actually admire it.
Okay.
They have expressed how proud of me they are. Some of them see it, they idolize it. They say, hey, if you can do this, Miss Jacobs, with
Hmm.
your past, if you can do something like that, I can. It does create a little entrepreneurial spirit amongst my
Hmm.
students because,
Okay.
you know, they start saying, hey, you know, maybe I can take something I love to do and pursue it. I do have one student, no, two students who are now want to become New York Times bestselling authors. And so we talk
Oh.
about it. We get together, we read about it, we talk about it, we discuss it, And I tell them if they need any help or mentoring along the way, I haven't made it yet, but I will surely help them make it. That would make my
Hmm.
day. If one of my students became a New
Yes.
York Times bestselling author, I would be so proud. But it does offer legitimacy. When I talk about fiction, they realize now that when I'm talking about fiction and I act so passionate about it, I really am
Hmm.
because I
Now,
have
are
those.
you an English teacher?
Yes, I am an English teacher. I've been
Okay.
teaching English for 16 years. Yes, and so they always say, "Oh, there's Miss Jacobs," but but
Hmm.
I really am passionate about English. I love books. I love novels. I love discussing them. I love breaking down characters, and they realize now how passionate I am because I have those books follow me. I would love to teach a creative writing course and focus on that and use that to and blend the two together, my novels, and us discuss it openly. It's
Hmm.
just though that opportunity hasn't happened yet.
Okay. Now, when I was looking at your website, Heal the Heart Publishing LLC, do you do publishing for other people, or is this just for your works?
Okay, so originally when I formed it, this was back in 2012. I had like a vision. I was laying in my bed, had a vision because like I told you, my friends were saying, "Oh, you should do something with your novels," and I was thinking about, my own hurt, my own struggles, my own pain, and
Hmm.
so I decided to use that as the foundation of my publishing company. I wanted to use my writing as a form of catharsis to heal myself.
Hmm.
And then as others read the book, I hope that they would also be healed with positive stories and inspirational stories. Um, and then eventually, I wanted to open the door to others. And so I have helped people along the way more so as a consultant. I can publish other works, but I have not found the right works yet and the right authors to work with yet.
Okay. And because I'm sitting here looking at the different publications, and as I was reading your bio, I do want to point this out now. You raised your three brothers.
Mhm.
And I know personally, we were talking years back when I think it was one of the times I was doing your hair, and you were talking about the challenges of becoming a mother biologically. And can you just, give us a little information on some of the challenges that you went with and also your testimony on how God did it for you?
So I will say this: the journeyhood to motherhood was very difficult for me,
Okay.
and you can see like a trend of that in my novels. All the novels struggle with motherhood. Imani, in her story, she's trying to parent a child that doesn't want them to be her parent. Andrew, I dealt with that 4 times over.
Okay. Right.
When I took in children that weren't my own, I dealt with the challenges of parenting, children that said, "Hey, I don't want a parent. I feel like I can do it on my own." Um, and if you've ever been a foster parent or adoptive parent, I think you've dealt with that.
Hmm.
Even biological parents, I think, have dealt with that.
Right.
Yasmin, in the Shade of Devotion, she was trying to take on her brother and get custody of him through foster care. And so that was one of the challenges I dealt with when I was trying to. I actually put in real conversations from foster care workers, some of them, just a few. I sprinkled in some of the things that were said to me in that novel. The other
Mm,
character, her love interest, Nasay, dealt with a loss. He lost his son in the novel and lost
mm,
his faith in religion. And so that was something I dealt with personally. At 34, I finally got pregnant with a son. And after years of being told it wasn't possible, it was like surprise. I didn't even believe it. It wasn't until like I was almost 3 months pregnant that I found out I was pregnant
mm,
because I just could not believe that I was pregnant, and I ended up losing my son. And so
mm,
you see that in several books, the pain I dealt with that in Black Magic. You see that with Anne, one of the characters, Anne, who was a wealthy woman. She was antagonistic. She was the antagonist in the story, but what drove her antagonism was the fact that she lost her son,
mm,
and it drove her crazy. You also see that in Brains Not Included. You see Zipporah. She lost her baby, and it upset her husband. to the point that it ruined the love that they were building. So in
Mm,
each of my stories, you see though that struggle with motherhood, which
mm-hmm,
reflects my own. I was told at 22 I could never have children.
mm,
I end up getting custody of my brothers. I adopted a daughter. I was rejected from motherhood by those that I held close, by the family
mm-hmm,
that I created
mm-hmm,
in some ways, which was hurtful. I finally get pregnant, and I lost the baby. And
mm,
I felt like that was my only chance, and that was at 34. At that point, I was so low, I was literally suicidal.
wow.
At that point. And then lo and behold, while dealing with depression and even doing book talks and trying to, talk to my therapist and get myself together, I get blessed with a daughter. And I remember when I was in the hospital room with my doctor, he
Mm-hmm,
looked at me. He said, "Oh man, you done got pregnant again." And he said, "This time," he said, "you're going to take your baby home. I promise you. This
mm,
time, you're going to take your baby home." And sure enough, I took my baby home, and it was the best day of my life. You could not upset me in that hospital
mm.
room when I first held my baby. You could
I
not
bet.
upset me. There's nothing you could have done. You could have slapped me 5 times. I would have smiled at you. Like,
The Will Smith kind of slap.
yeah, you could. I was Chris Rock. I would have just cracked the joke or two.
Wow.
I would have been Chris Rock at the Oscars. Like, I'm telling you, I was so in love with that Holland Darling baby, and I'm still so much in love with her. She is literally my universe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so she's the reason that my book right now is being held up. Monsters Within 2, but I'm still working on it.
Okay. And how old is she now?
Right now, she's 2 years old. She's two
Oh,
years old.
wow.
She's a wonderful, wonderful baby. Just smart, so smart. Of course, she likes to read. She loves to
Mm.
talk. She even uses sometimes big words because she's mimicking me. She said she likes to say, "You're so annoying."
Wow. At two?
They think she's gifted now.
I'm sure she probably is because she has an incredibly intelligent
Yeah.
mother. And I just want to say that I thank God for you having this testimony and being open to share it because I think I just look at, our lives as women. It's not that culture teaches us we have to be a mother, it's an internal
Mhm.
drive. It's just
It is.
something that all little girls feel. We have the little baby dolls when we're little because it's something on the inside that says we should be a mother because that's what God created us for. We all have wombs. And unfortunately, some people never become mothers. And I know that's got to be such a heartbreaking thing. But when you've been giving a prognosis and they say you can never be, but God says, no, that's not my plan for you. So I'm going to show you that you can be. So I'm just so glad that He has blessed you with the beautiful daughter that you have. We have just a few minutes left to wrap up, but we do want to get into your books. Of the 5 books that you have, I would like to know which is your favorite and why, and just give us a little insight on that book. And then we're going to go to finding out, letting the people know how they can get in touch with you, how they can get your works, and to also see if we have any questions from our audience. But I'm looking at here, you have The Monsters Within, The Shade of Devotions, trying to Black Magic, A Child's Place, and this other one is kind of hard to read. Let
Yeah,
me
I
see.
have Child's Place right now
Mhm.
is a screenplay. I have not finished the novel. That's something that's in the plan.
Okay.
Um, but the ones that are out right now are the first initial 4 that you stated.
Oh,
Monsters
and brains not
Within,
included.
Brains Not Included. I love Brains Not Included. I don't know why that doesn't it is not getting as many sales as my other novels, but that it's a really good
Hmm.
novel. Um, Honestly, I'm just going to say this about my novels. I love all of my novels. Um,
Okay.
I put my blood, work, sweat, and tears and little bits of me into every single novel I write. Um, some novels do better than others. Right now, my highest selling novel has been and has always been The Shade of Devotion, which is so
Mm.
uncanny because that's when I had my loss with my son in the middle of writing that book. I literally stopped writing it. That book took longer than others because I had to stop writing it. I
Okay.
went through that loss. And then I start back writing it almost obsessively. Like I wake up and spend 8 to 9 hours working on that novel.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly say Tortured Souls make the best art because that is the book that sells the most. That's the book that everyone loves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of my favorites, especially, is Black Magic. And that's because I did put a lot of things dealing with slavery. It's meant
Mm-hmm.
to be inspirational for African Americans and African American culture. It should be uplifting in that regard. But I love the character that I created, Queen.
Mm-hmm.
I love Queen. She's hardcore, you know. She's one of those characters that you don't mess with. But each of my novels are awesome. So let me just tell you a little bit about each of them. Can we do that? Do I have enough time
Yes, yes,
for
yes, we
that?
do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So The Monster Within, of course, is my debut novel, and that's a story about Imani. Imani means faith, and that's just what that character is about.
Okay.
She meets this young white male named Andrew. He's about 12 years old. He lives downstairs from her in her apartment complex, and he
Mm-hmm.
has just a horrible stepdad. He's crazily abusive. And so
Mm.
Imani gets sort of wrapped up in all of their chaos and dysfunction as she's trying to save Andrew. And so my follow up, that Monsters Within 2, which should be coming out this year, um,
Mm-hmm.
that goes into Andrew. The first book talks about his family a lot and his father, but then in
Mm-hmm.
the sequel, we start learning more about who is this young man that she's trying to save, and who is
Mm.
this and is he able to be saved? A
Okay.
lot of times with kids, dysfunction breeds dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
They repeat their home life. Then you have The Shade of Devotion, like I said, which is my highest selling. That's the book that everyone loves. That's patterned a little bit off of my personal life. You have Yasmin, who is 17 years old. She graduates from high school to an audience where nobody's in the audience. You find out that her mom is mentally ill. She
Mm.
suffers from bipolar disorder, and she ends up committing suicide. After her mom commits suicide, immediately Yasmin is thrust into the need to save her brother. Her brother's taken into foster care. Her whole
Mm.
world has been flipped upside down, and she's
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out how is she going to save and put her family get back together. And that's when her friend comes up with this brilliant idea. Her friend says, "Hey, marry this guy. He's Asian. He needs a green card, and he'll pay you, and then you can use the money to get your siblings." And originally, and this is where my story differs because I
Mm.
actually had a friend do that.
Mm. Okay.
I met the Asian guy and everything. This is, I was 18 years old at the time. I met the Asian guy and everything, but I decided not to do that. I was like, no, I don't want to do
Wow, that's
that.
interesting.
But Yasmin did it. Yasmin met the guy. Yasmin decided to take the money, and she gets her brother. But now she's left in an arranged marriage with a guy that she is not
Right.
feeling, but he's feeling her. And so you go through the turmoils and challenges of a woman trying to overcome grief,
Mm-hmm.
trying to make this awkward relationship work, and
Mm-hmm.
then a young teenager trying to suddenly raise a child on her
Right.
own.
Yeah.
And so some of those challenges are the challenges I went through. Um, then Brains Not Included. I love that book. My friend who read that book, she immediately called me when she was done at 6 o'clock in the morning, waking me up on a Saturday to
Mm-hmm.
tell me how much she loved that book. She That's the only one of my books that she read and she adores. But Brains Not
Mm-hmm.
Included is a sequel to Shade of Devotion.
Okay.
Zipporah, which is Yasmin's child, has her own love story. She's very embedded in
Mm.
the church. Yasmin is not is non-religious. Her father is non-religious, but she's very religious.
Mm-hmm.
And she believes in perfection. She believes her family has the perfect family. That she's going to have the perfect marriage to her husband, who's also a Christian. Not her husband. I'm sorry. Her boyfriend, who she
Mm-hmm.
believes will be her husband, and that she's going to have this perfect life. That's her ideal. And as you go through the story, you find out, hey, her relationship isn't perfect. The guy that she wants to marry doesn't want to marry her.
Mm.
And in the course of finding that out, it ruins her relationships with her siblings. You
Mm-hmm.
find that out in chapter 2 why that occurs. And then her sister comes up with a brilliant idea. Hey, let's get away. And so she goes on a missions trip to Africa, meet this young African chief, and falls head over heels for him,
Mm.
despite the gossiping of the church. You know how the church people are.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so she brings him back to America. Well, she comes back to America in a marriage that she believes is just an African thing. Like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
until he shows up at her doorstep, and she realized the marriage that she had in Africa was real.
Oh, wow.
And so now she has to deal with the ramifications of that, of the relationship, of the what people are going to think, and her image that she
Mm-hmm.
has to uphold as the perfect child. Um,
Wow. Now
yeah,
it seems like I can identify with that book. Wow, that sounds like a really good read. And just even with it's, of course, fiction mimics real life, because what do you do when you're caught up in a situation where you love one person, but that person is not the one that's feeling you the same way, and then there's somebody else that's feeling you over there, and you're like, okay, where do I go? Where do I choose? And you fall in love with this person, and this one shows back up a dollar short and a day late.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to reveal a little bit about the book. Okay,
Okay.
a real teeny bit. But she finds out that not only is he not feeling her that way, but he's not feeling women that way at all.
I gotta
That's
clutch my pearls.
She's wearing pearls when she finds out.
Wow.
And so they get in a verbal altercation that's causing some altercations. It has the drama. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, what do you do in that situation when you find out your man is not your man?
mm.
He's someone else's man,
Wow.
uh,
Okay.
another man's man.
Yeah.
And then you're left to deal with the ramifications of that, especially when you brag to everyone that, oh, you guys are gonna get married, this is gonna happen,
Mm-hmm.
and that you are so in love. So yeah, that's difficult
Yeah.
to say the least. And then you have Black Magic, which is a dark romance. And so
Mm-hmm.
Black Magic is a little complicated. I love my story because I did something different. I mixed the past and the present. So in the
Mm-hmm.
present, you have this girl named Ocean. She's in love with this guy named Cash. Cash is from a wealthy family, a wealthy
Hmm.
white
Okay.
family in the South. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so she wants Cash, really bad, and they start dating. And her mom happens to do a little hoodoo in her bakery. Not her mom, sorry, her grandma does hoodoo. That's something they passed down. And if you know anything about hoodoo, hoodoo is a mixture of the African religion Houdon and Christianity. So they use the Bible and they mix it with black folk magic, as it's called. Um, a lot of us
Mm-hmm.
kind of, a lot of us kind of dabble in it a little bit, or heard about little stuff in it, such as
Mm-hmm.
the spaghetti, or eating
Yeah.
black eyed peas and
Mm-hmm.
and on New Year's in order to for good luck, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So her grandma is an expert in it because they passed it down from slavery. And so Ocean doesn't believe in it though, until she finds out that Cash is not really as into her as she thought, and she finds out that his mom and her grandma doesn't want them to be together, but she can't figure out why. Why is everybody fighting them not being together? Why is the family at odds? And she thinks it's just about them being rich, about Cash's family being rich and her being poor. But there's a
Mm-hmm.
little more to the story because there's some family secrets going on that Ocean doesn't know about.
Mm.
So she dabbles in her grandma's hoodoo magic,
Trying to get cash.
trying to get cash,
Wow.
and it backfires.
Wow.
And it
And
backfires.
and again, fiction mimicking real life, because if we look at it, there are a lot of people that will go to whatever extremes to try to get on the man. I'll never forget, and this might be a little off subject, but I buy storage units when people lose their stuff. I'll buy the contents of their house. And I'll never forget one time I found these crystals and a lot of papers that were burned around the edges with different prayers on it about a person. And there was this lady that She was interested in this man and wanted him to stay in her life, and the crystals had pieces of paper taped underneath. And when I looked it up
Well, I
and
would
did
put
the
that back.
research, yeah, and when I did the research, that was a form of black magic,
Oh
that they
wow.
would do that, and you would put under the crystal whatever you wanted and sit the crystal down, and that person whose name and whatever you wanted there, that would hold them in place in your life.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
See, I don't actually do black magic, or my thing when I actually researched a novel, I was
Mm-hmm.
reading some newspaper articles about voodoo and hoodoo and its place in Black history. Like people
Mm-hmm.
don't realize this, but voodoo was the only religion that freed the slaves. In Haiti, they used voodoo and they
Mm-hmm.
used that to fight back against the slave masters, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole continent of Haiti was freed. And voodoo is a mixture of Voodoo, the African religion, and Catholicism. The
Okay.
first, religion ever created, and a lot of people don't know that, in America is from the African slaves, and that's
Mm-hmm.
hoodoo, which is a mixture of Christianity and houdon. Even I was at somebody's house and they had the Bible laid open facing a certain direction in their house. They don't even realize it. That's hoodoo. It's
Mm-hmm.
hoodoo, leaving the Bible open. And
Mm-hmm.
so, it was a mixture. It was the slaves trying to hold on to their own African religions and cultures, and then mixing it with the Christianity. And I said, why do we treat this so, bad? Why is this seen as such a dark thing? This is what these people used and did to survive.
And like
Um,
you say, and even the mixture of pieces that mimic it, because if we look at, for example, white Christianity and black Christianity, if we could just put the divide there, our culture when it comes to our services, if you would just tune out what you were hearing and just look, the dancing
very
very much
African,
mimics what
inspired.
you would see in, yeah, right, in African religions. The sound or the way that we do as a culture,
The
and we don't.
shouting, the laying on of hands. I mean, even when you look at Christianity, it's a African religion. When you go to the Old Testament, Moses'
Mhm.
wife was Ethiopian. Moses was in Egypt. Where is Egypt? I mean, it's an African text,
Yeah, the
an
culture is
African
definitely
and Middle
mixed in there.
Eastern text. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, I felt like, in some ways we're kind of dogmatic in the way we treat, African spiritualism. And I thought that veil should be lifted. So in that sense, in Black magic, um, her family passed down the hoodoo to protect themselves from what was originally the slave master. And see, that gets into the backstory of Ocean. So
Mhm.
at the present, Ocean's trying to get this guy named Cash that she thinks is oh so fine and oh so great, and she wants to be with him. And her family's like, no, no, no. Well, when as you read the book, I begin to blend the past and the present, and you go back to
Mhm.
the original story, and that's Queen. Queen was the best and fastest slave and the most prettiest slave on the plantation, dark
Mhm.
as tar, beautiful.
Mhm.
And so Queen also practiced hoodoo because the slave master would come in on her at night. And she ended up having a child that she wanted to protect from the slave master and her brothers. And I kind of patterned that off my own family because in my own research, I found out that we're related to our slave master and the Rogers plantation in Alabama.
Hmm.
Yes. So the slave master would come in and she would use hoodoo to protect them. Um,
Hmm.
and so what happened is the slave master at one point um, not only came in on her, but he came in on her daughter. And so as revenge, she used black magic to kill the men in the household and curse them
Hmm.
and to get the bakery that they had. But she put a curse in the beginning of the novel on everybody. She said, from black hands you came, and from black hands you'll return. Because for Queen, their wealth came from black people. They were plantation owners. That
Mhm.
home was built by black people. The house was
Mhm.
built by black people. Their wealth came from black people. So all that wealth that Queen saw in the beginning, she said all of it is going to go back to her family. And so that was
Mm.
the curse she put on on that family. And that's what caused the divide and the rift. And the rift followed them for centuries. That family continuously clashed. Bayana, who was the granddaughter of a queen, ends up having a daughter who she wants to befriend that family because they're their distant relatives.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, black magic kind of gets in the way of that friendship. When they
Mm.
become friends, and they become really good friends, they end up falling for the same guy.
Oh, that's close.
That's a little too close, right?
Right.
They end up falling for the same guy. And so that falling for the same guy causes a major rift because
Mm-hmm.
both girls end up pregnant.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
and that becomes a family secret. And that family secret is what causes Ocean so many problems later on in the story.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So,
Definitely, again, definitely fiction mimicking real life. And those are some of the challenges that everybody faces. And I think it's great to have the fiction stories because you can put all of the circumstances together and not necessarily have to tell one person's business or put out there and be transparent about what happened in somebody's life, but still can tell the truth about what happens and what we all face. And speaking of Black history, and I guess I want to end here, and then of course I want you to get an opportunity to let our audience know how they can find you, how they can get your works, and also talk about you being a motivational speaker too, because I don't think we got to that point just yet. But in talking about Black history, one of the things that's great for Black authors to make sure that we do weave into the stories that we write, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, is to talk about our history, especially us being here in America. And even as an educator, I know you probably think there's not enough of Black history being taught in the schools, and especially when the schools, may be predominantly Black. The children are coming from neighborhoods where that should be taught because we need to know our history. What do you think can be done or should be done in the education system to add more Black history into the curriculum?
um, let me see here. How do I approach this? I, one of the things that I was penalized for with my novels is that I put black faces on the cover. Um,
Mm,
and all of my lead characters were usually, except for one book, all of them are dark skinned women, which I did purposefully because dark skinned women in our society are the least protected, the most stigmatized group. We're not
mm-hmm,
allowed or seen to be human.
right.
Just like in the State of Devotion, people were so upset that Yasmin grieved the whole book through for her mom. And it's like, well, what is she supposed to do?
Mm-hmm,
Uh, they just want her to get over it. Black women aren't allowed to grieve. Um, you deal with in black magic. Ocean is gothic, and black women aren't allowed to express themselves or be dark or be deep.
mm,
There's so many stigmas that come with being a black woman and just being a
mm-hmm,
black person in our society.
right.
And I sought to break that a little bit. Um,
Mm-hmm,
I know one comment I got was that my books weren't black enough. And I
hmm.
had one person explain that to me, and they were upset because I didn't have drug dealers and
Oh, wow.
I didn't have drug dealers, and my book didn't rival Empire. They're more so on the side of Queen Sugar.
Mm-hmm,
Um, but those are black experiences. Not everybody has the experience of being in and out of jail, and
right.
black people are diverse. We're not just a one set. And so
Mm-hmm,
when you talk about black history, I think the issue is not that we don't teach enough history. We don't
okay.
always teach accurate history.
Okay, it's
What
good.
really happened,
Mm-hmm,
what was really the treatment like. I remember I taught African American lit, and my principal at that time didn't like for me to teach African American lit.
hmm.
um, because she didn't like that sometimes, the things I taught would make the students angry, and I taught it, of course, to everyone, black, white, Asian, in between, because I believe that black history is American history and it
Right.
needs to be taught to all students.
Mm-hmm,
And so I say that to say this: when I taught, African American history, every student one day we had a good conversation about the N word and the use of it. We talked about we talked about, we read real slave or actual depictions of slavery, watched some videos of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of our students one day, they were just really quiet. And my Asian student raised her hand and she said, Miss Jacobs. I said, yes. She said, I didn't realize slavery was that bad. And
Mm.
my black students said the same thing. They said, I just thought they whipped them. That's it. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Wow.
And I dealt with some of the stereotypes. I had a student stand up in my class and say, hey, the only good thing black people ever did in the United States would be slaves. A student said that to me.
Wow.
And I had to confront that student and show them, that Africa is not a place full of, as my African friend would like to say, I hope this is not offensive, but it's not a place of just bush people. They're cities with
Mm-hmm.
intelligent people. There's cities
Right.
that some parts are more advanced than here in America.
Mm-hmm.
I had to talk about the contributions that Black people have made throughout history. And the fact that America would not be America without Black slaves. The only colony, the first colony that was established and survived and made it was the colony that had slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, when we talk about history and we talk about Black history or a portion of American history, we
Mm-hmm.
need to take an honest look and we need to be honest with our students, and we need to
Right.
be more accurate. And they need to know, hey, it was a horrible practice. There were a lot of horrible things done
Mm-hmm.
to people. It's not the only time it's been done in history, but it's probably the most condensed, I would say, time. And that um, we need to take a honest look at how it impacts us even today.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't even realize how it impacts their individual lives. It impacts their families. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my stance on that. I just really, I believe in accuracy and
Right.
honesty, you know.
Absolutely. And I love the book covers as I'm sitting and looking here because I can be honest and say from my experiences, and this might start a whole barrage of people, wanting to disagree or whatever, but I'm going to speak my truth. This is my platform, is that I do know that there is a difference and a stigmatism still, versus light skinned and dark skinned women, for
Mhm.
example.
Oh, colorism still exists.
Right, definitely. And, I, of course, as a lighter skinned woman, do applaud and love to see, dark skinned sisters get out there and say, hey, I'm beautiful. I am great. I don't feel that way, but I know that there are some people that possibly have the feeling or thought that maybe I'm better because I'm lighter or get more opportunities, even if we don't feel that way. People pick and give opportunities to people based on how they look and it's or the color of their skin or how light their shade is. And that's got to stop because I sit and look, I could never be that way simply because of the fact I looked at my mother as beautiful and brown skin, as chocolate and beautiful as you are, Dawnell. And
Oh,
it's like, I call her my little chocolate drop and I love her dearly. And I would not want to, it's like me, bring me to a point of tears because I would not want somebody to choose me over my mother just
mhm.
because I'm a little lighter or think that that makes me better in some kind of way. We have got to uplift one another, especially as Black women. I don't care if you the lightest of the light or the darkest of the dark. We are all in this together because, baby, one thing about it, on the other side, they all see it. It says it's all Black.
Mhm. Everybody got sold at the block.
Right.
Everybody got sold at the auction block. We're all Black. And so, when I look at my stories,
Mm-hmm.
I try to be very inclusive in my stories. I purposely have in the LGBT community. I try to be inclusive of that. I include dark skin. I include light skin. Um, but I do try to deal with some of the issues that I have faced as an African American, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest issues I had was the criminalization of my skin color.
Mm-hmm.
People look at dark skin as bad, as wrong, and you see that in every single facet. Even as an educator, how many
Mm-hmm.
times have I been in a room full of educators, and the urban school
Mm-hmm.
always showing faces of dark skinned people, Black people, as
Mm-hmm.
though Black people are the only ones who form urban schools, is always seen as the bad school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our school full of black students is bad school. And I've taught at some wonderful schools with wonderful students of color, and who should not be viewed that way and talked about that way. You can have a school full of wealthy people with all black faces. There's a school like that right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, and then you'll have schools who are Caucasian,
Mm-hmm.
who are seen as good schools, whereas I've taught at poor Caucasian schools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've seen the ramifications of that. I remember I had a student stand up in the middle of class and tell me, "I make more money than you in a night, Miss Jacobs, than
Oh
you make
wow.
all year." And that student was Caucasian. And every time I tell that story, everyone
Mm.
assumes they were black. That was a Caucasian student. So when you
Mm.
talk about good and bad, that's not a skin color thing. That's a
Right.
person thing.
Because
Um,
and they're taught to prejudge. They're taught to say
we all are.
because yeah, because you're white, you make more money than a black person. Period. And you don't even know what this black person has, what their education level, or what their resources are. Well, I think I hear some voices, but I think your break's about over.
Yeah, we got another group coming in here, so we
Okay.
got some voices in the background. I'm so sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. We just thank you for taking this time out with us. And before we go, we would like for you to just let our audience know a little bit about your motivational speaking, and also how we can find you if they want to order books or if they just want to connect with you. How can they connect with you?
I'm definitely online. You can definitely contact me through Heal the Heart Publishing Company, LLC.com. You can order
Okay.
my books from there. You can also contact me for motivational speaking. I am looking for more speaking. I do enjoy talking to young people and motivating them, and trying to let them see that, hey, no matter where you are in life, success is possible. And success doesn't always look the same for everyone. I was a high school
Hmm.
dropout. Now I have a master's degree and I'm an educator. So I may not
Wow.
be,
Mm.
my uncle drives a Rolls Royce. I may not be driving a Rolls Royce,
Hmm.
me and my little Nissan, but I'm still successful. I'm a
Yes.
homeowner, I'm a business owner. I did some things that seemed impossible. So I
Hmm.
do like to motivate students that there is end in sight. You can also contact me via my email, Heal the Heart Publishing Company at Outlook.com. You can contact me via Facebook at Dawnell Jacobs Author. And for my books, you can buy my books at Barnes and Nobles. You can buy them on Amazon, not just their website, but you can buy them Barnes and Nobles in person. You can buy them on Amazon.com. You can purchase again from my website, and that's it.
Oh wow, that's incredible! And I need to get with you too. We're going to do this on the side. And Leanna, if you're listening, please get this information for me because I am looking. Of course, I started this broadcast because I've published my first book, and I wanted to make a platform for other authors who, especially, may not be on the bestsellers list yet, but we're working towards it to get it out so people can know what we are doing. Because I know it's been challenging, even promoting my own work, but
Yeah.
to know the different platforms and how to get it there. I would love to be able to get in the Barnes and Noble platform. Just don't have the knowledge of how.
Oh yeah.
But if you would please,
And I
share
am
that
a
with me.
consultant.
Yes.
For my books, if you look at my books, I've made my own covers.
Okay.
I did all my interior design myself.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I saved a lot of money.
Yes, definitely.
But I did all my interior design. I did my book covers. I did that myself. I was able to get on television,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I created my own marketing campaign,
Mm-hmm.
which greatly opened up doors. I was able to get in the newspaper, in the local newspaper. I still haven't gotten to AJC yet. I'm still working on that one.
Okay.
um, but I did all of that myself. And if you look on my website, you see that I am a consultant. I can help you
Okay.
as those who are self-published, or if you're published through a publishing company, and you still need a little
Mm-hmm.
bit of help marketing yourself. I can definitely help you with all of that.
Yes.
Um, so yes, seek me out, email me,
Okay.
call me, follow me on Twitter.
Yes, ma'am.
Friend me on Facebook. I can help you. We can get it done. I'm very much into support. I'm a person who believes that there's room for everyone to shine.
Hmm.
I do not believe in holding other authors back. If you make it and become a New York Times bestseller author, I'll be right there on the front row clapping for you.
Yes,
So if
ma'am.
you come to me for help, believe me, I will help you be successful, because that's what I'm all about. It's all about supporting each other. If you look at the New York Times best-selling list, there are no African American faces. The last time I looked, which was
Mm.
2019, there are no African Americans on the New York Times bestsellers list. None, zip, zero. And I think it's time for that to change. And if
Hmm.
one of us makes it, we open the door for the rest of us. So
Yes, yes, yes.
let's keep it up. Let's support each other.
Yes, thank you so much. And we definitely will continue to support one another. Thank you so much. And you all, please do. Leanna, can you put that back up here and we'll just end with her publishing company information? Make sure that you go visit it and just check her website out. Look at the books. Order these books for yourself. Order one for your sister. Order one for your niece. Order one for your nephew. Order books for your family members, because that's how we also keep the money in our economy, and to keep it thriving among the small Black businesses. So thank you so much for the contribution that you have made. And we're just grateful to have you as a part of this platform. And everybody, please be reminded to join us tonight at 9 o'clock p.m. for we call it our Bible study, but it's just a time for Q&A. If you have questions about relationships that you want to ask, then you join in with us. And we like to close in prayer before we leave out. So if you don't mind, we'll just close in prayer, and then we will be done with the broadcast. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together today. We thank you for this author that has taken out her time to use her creativity to not only be a blessing to herself, but to be a blessing to others, because we understand that these works of literature, they will live long past the lives that we even have on this earth, and they will speak to the next generation. God, the legacy that she is leaving in the books that she is writing, Father, we pray, God, that it will touch generations to come. And we pray that there's a blessing over her business, God, that everything that she writes, God, that it will be a success. We're talking about bestseller lists, God. We know that you're able to do all things. And so, Father, we're asking for that blessing for her, because I know that she has that heart. I know that she is the type of woman that she wants to just see herself and others be better, so that at the end you can get glory in everything that she does. So, Father, I thank you for her daughter. God, continue to bless her as a mother, so that she will have the wisdom that's needed to foster this young girl's life in a way that it will be successful, just as she has done with her brothers, God. And even for her brothers, I pray that you continue to bless them, and that they will see the imprint of her hand on their lives for years to come. And Father, we just appreciate her selflessness. We appreciate her sacrifice. We appreciate her saying, I will pick up the mantle, and that I will take this and I will run, and that I will be all that you call me to be. So bless her even in her job with her students, that every day that she goes into the classroom, that some child will leave encouraged, some child will leave positive, some child will leave better because of the words that are spoken by her. And Father, we just thank you for her life. Thank you for everybody that watches this broadcast. And as we continue on to next week, Father, we ask that you will just continue to keep this show going, so that we can bring your word in various ways to your people. It's in the matchless name of Jesus we pray. Thank you again so much. I love you guys that have watched. God bless you. And we will see you all on next Wednesday. Have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.